we go. So why don't we choose our faction straight away?
Yeah.
We have the 18K, the Sun On Yi, and I may be pronouncing these wrong,
Yeah.
and the Xingwang.
Yeah, the Xingwo is that's a new one. The kind of the main bulk of Sleeping Dogs was between the 18K and the Sun On Yi. So the Xingwo is kind of a new group. I like that main dude. He's got kind of a Miami Vice thing.
Should we go with
going
him?
on there.
Yeah.
I can do that. Yeah.
Bam. See, there's a couple different styles to choose from, just to show, and these are specific to the faction you choose. So the other factions have different styles, but we'll go with Miami Vice and IGN Play Starter. That's a great name.
Dilbert.
Dilbert.
There we go. That's a good gangster name right there, Dilbert. Yeah,
Beautiful.
I like it. We actually have 20 codes to give away. If you would like one of those, all you have to do is tweet at us. We are at IGN and use the hashtag IGNPlaysLive. So that's a hashtag, and we're going to be tracking that. So just jump on Twitter and say whatever. Say what's up. Ask us a question. We'll talk about it. I'm sorry, I'm talking over the movie.
Oh, it's okay. So this is our uncle who's setting us up, and he's basically explaining. Well, I guess I could let him explain. But you know what? I'd rather do it. So we have these triads, and these are factions in this fictional world, which is based on reality. But basically, he's saying we need to establish our own triad. And to do that, we need to raid somebody else's triad to get the resources, take what's theirs, and make it ours.
It's business. You know, you're taking over some local industry stuff.
So this is the tutorial. We're starting out. We just made our character, obviously, and this is going to show us the basics of combat, the basics of driving, as well as the basics of triad management. The whole process takes about 10 minutes, but after that, we're going to jump onto an account that's a little bit more endgamey, has a lot of the things unlocked, and we'll see how that differs and what you stand to gain in terms of progression.
Now, if you never played Sleeping Dogs on its own, I love that game. I'm a huge fan of that game. I highly recommend, if you've got a PS4 or an Xbox One, grabbing the Definitive Edition, I think that was called, which was basically like it was one of those great kind of Square Enix games that was made towards the end of last console generation, and they were like, yeah, it looks pretty good on 360 and PS3, and then the PC version was like just crazy good looking, and they would release like a 14 gig like hair file or whatever. You're like, yeah, make your hair look cool, because basically they were kind of, it's an engine that's, I guess, sort of future-proof for the new consoles. So they immediately, the same way they did with Tomb Raider, just immediately dropped definitive kind of HD version, which looks fabulous. The game has combat, as you can see, that's a bit similar to something like the Arkham games. It's super fun. One of the things they have going strong is environmental attacks, which are badass.
Which we will see in a minute here. You may be wondering, oh, what's that? Doing over there, that drill, or what's this?
Teach this man a lesson.
Here we go.
Yep.
This
get
is
the
the most brutal one.
There
away.
we go. Oh, yeah. So if you have small children or house pets nearby, you might want to cover their little eyes, because this is a gruesome game. Yeah, I like it. This is in Sleeping Dogs. I'm not sure if this is going to pop up in Triad Wars, but you could beat someone to death with a fish, which is funny.
Oh, actually, yes, there is. There is a fish.
Have you found a fish in this? Oh, there's a drill.
It's called a dire fish. Oh yeah, we'll do the drill.
Oh,
this one is particularly brutal
oh,
because it leaves the corpse in quite a position.
Oh, that's gnarly.
The first time I did that, it was from the opposite angle, so I actually got to see all the gritty details. But all right, so this is our upgrades, and we have the Enforcer and the Gang tree. So if I hit, skills. So skills just unlock passively as you level up. So now while I'm sprinting, I can tap B and I'll tackle an opponent, and then I can grapple with him or hit him on the ground or do whatever. And then, so if we go back to that real quick, I guess we can't right now. We'll check out skills in a bit. There's a lot of things to unlock in Triad Wars, as well as upgrading your gang, upgrading your own skills, choosing a progression path, upgrading your stats, all kinds of things. All right, so here's kind of the boss of the tutorial. And I found the bosses to be very reactionary, much more so like if you try and grab them, it doesn't go too well for you.
Yeah, I'm wondering, I mean, I've only gotten like maybe an hour or so into this, and it definitely has more of kind of like a slow burn to it than, Sleeping Dogs kind of single player did, because it's kind of expecting you to sort of really, level up your character and build your base up a bit. But in Sleeping Dogs, you ran into a lot of different enemy types, and they were like grapplers, and they were like brawlers, and they some of them would knock you on the ground, some of them would not be able to. You couldn't grab them. You had to stun them first to do environmental attacks. And
similar to like a Shadows of Mordor kind of thing, where they have their own niche going on.
Yeah, kind of. And it seems like they're kind of doing that for the boss types in this.
Yeah, I found the variants to be if the boss has weapons, and there is definitely a definite gameplay flow too. Okay, so here we have the open world map. We're going to go to our Triad and our home base, if you will. I'm actually not driving right now. I was very confused.
Can I take over here?
I was like, the driving controls are so unresponsive, and then I realized my uncle was driving the car because I'm used to driving in America.
The driving in these games is fantastic. United Front Games, who are the guys who made this, and Sleeping Dogs, their other stuff that they kind of came out of nowhere with Sleeping Dogs. They worked on Little Big Planet Racing and oh god, what was it? There was a different kart racing game. But yeah, like I think it was Little Big Planet Racing, and then God, I don't know. It was two driving games, and basically because of that, we have like really good driving and shooting. Probably my favorite driving and shooting
of any open world.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean GTA 5 definitely was a contender there, but I really enjoy the feeling of popping a tire and doing that. What was it? Mod Nation Racers. That's it.
Our producer James Faulkner.
That
got the fact check.
That wasn't a bad guy there. I just shot his tires out.
Yeah, and that was an extreme reaction for just shooting at the bottom of his car. He flies 12 feet up in the air.
And they have a thing that I think you have to unlock, which is action hijacks, which is basically the ability to jump out of your car into a different car and rip the dude out of the driver's seat.
Right.
That's just fun, you know. That bullet time while driving is. I mean, like we've had open world games where you can shoot out of a car for quite some time now, and I feel like Sleeping Dogs was the first one where it was like, how do you tackle this and make it actually enjoyable to do, and not just like taxing with, you know, some weird kind of weird calisthenics with the trigger buttons and leaning out the, you know, flipping a camera around and screwing up.
So you're using a gun right now. Weapons in this game, obviously the tutorial supplies you with some good weapons, but once you kind of get into it on your own, you have a very limited arsenal. I think they start you off with a butcher's hatchet.
Yep.
And then after that, you need to do favors to unlock weapons for specific amounts of time, but they are actually super beneficial because just because you have a weapon doesn't mean all your enemies do. So if you're going to do a raid, and if you have a shotgun, people will just rush at you, and it's absolutely brutal.
Yeah, and the game is more of an emphasis on melee in general, but there is some very fun shooting. I mean, it's basically it's an ode to kind of classic Hong Kong cinema, which is, you know, typically a lot more punch in the face before you get to, you know, it's not quite Commando, you know, like you might get, you know, some 9mm submachine gun action at some point, but yeah, it's much more about breaking dudes' necks and killing them with fish. You know.
Yeah. A very large fish that when you drop on the ground, it actually flops, which is slightly disturbing. So I guess
realistic fish physics.
It's like alive the entire time you're using it. So you survived the ambush.
Our windshield did not.
No, nothing.
Sorry, windshield.
No part of our car.
Oh yeah.
So this is the raid. Yeah. So this is if I may, the core content of this game. There's a lot of things to do in the game, but the raiding is similar every time you do it. However, the layout changes, the enemy types change, the weapons you're using change, and the entire thing is timed. Not in the tutorial, but that is the real incentive of this experience.
The cops are going to show up, and I had one instance where I think I just left it quote unquote paused, which doesn't really work when you're online. And the cops showed up, and I just tried to fight the cops. That did not end well.
No. And you have to kind of pick and choose what you want to try and accomplish when you raid. So there's all these rackets you can destroy and steal some of the money from. And then there's an enforcer or a boss that you can fight, but all that stuff takes time, and you have limited time. You can extend that time with doing extra missions, but that's basically the core gameplay loop of this, is just do some bonus missions, go to the raid, try and do it in the amount of time before the cops show up. Let's see if you can slam that guy into something. Oh, yes.
It's for you.
Your mother called.
All right.